Alright folks, buckle up, because today I've got some juicy exclusive intel straight from one of my top Ubisoft insiders. And trust me, it's not just about Assassin's Creed Shadows. We're talking HEXE Invictus, surprise character comebacks, and a whole lot more. I'm spilling the tea from my sources first, then later we'll dive into the wild Ubisoft Tencent saga that's got everyone buzzing. But let's kick things off with HEXE. Oh, you're gonna love this. If you've caught my earlier vids, you know HEXE is set in Europe, zooming in on Germany, where you step into the boots of a fierce female assassin tearing it up in the Holy Roman Empire. Total badass vibes, right? Now, here's the kicker. This game was originally slated to revolve around the Salem witch trials. Yep, witch hunts, creepy vibes, the works. But hold on to your hoods, because the plot's taken a massive twist since then. Oh, and the main character? She started out as Elsa. Cool name, sure, but word on the street is that Ubisoft's bigwigs are tossing around a new one. Annika. Yep, Annika. Sounds epic, doesn't it? Stick with me, because this is just the beginning of the wild ride. So Elsa's new full name is currently Annika Adler, and the game's plot takes place between 1520 to 1540 AD. So let's dive deeper into Annika's world. Picture this. She's holed up in the Black Forest, this dark, misty chunk of southern Germany that's straight out of a gothic fairy tale. She's living with her mom, a midwife who's all about bringing new life into the world, delivering babies like it's no big deal. But then there's her dad, and oh boy, he's the total opposite. An executioner. Yep, he's the guy swinging the axe, taking lives, and let's just say that Giggs left a serious stain on the family name. Can you imagine the dinner table convos? Pass the potatoes, Dad. How many heads rolled today? It's brutal, and even though he doesn't love the job, it's what pays the bills. So you've got this wild life and death duality baked right into Annika's parents. Pretty poetic, right? She's got siblings too, though my source didn't spill their names. Guess they're not stealing the spotlight yet. Now Annika, she's a lone wolf, keeps to herself, brooding in the shadows, desperate to shake off the whole daughter of the executioner vibe. But here's the twist. She's super tight with her family, and they've drilled one rule into her head. Trust no one outside these walls. And honestly, who can blame them? This is an era where folks are getting torched at the stake just for looking at someone funny. But everything flips upside down when a local baron bites the dust. Dead, kaput, gone. And guess who they point the finger at? Our girl Annika? The locals are screaming witchcraft and accusing her of offing the guy with magic. Magic in Assassin's Creed? Yeah, I'm scratching my head too. My bet, Ubisoft's weaving in those classic pieces of Eden, some Isu artifact mojo, and that whole DNA connection craziness they love to sprinkle in. A reminder, of course, Odyssey. That game was a total roller coaster, hands down the most fantastical and Isu-drenched entry in the Assassin's Creed series. Picture this, you're running around as a superhuman, half-Isu warrior, swinging a magical spear like it's no big deal, taking down human hybrid monsters straight out of a Greek myth. It was epic, no doubt, but let's be honest, Odyssey barely felt like an Assassin's Creed game half the time. It was more like Ubisoft said, hey, let's crank the fantasy dial to 11 and make a full-on mythological RPG. And you know what? It worked. It was a blast to play, but it definitely stretched the definition of what we think Assassin's Creed should be. Now it looks like HEXE is taking a page out of that same playbook, and I'm here for it. You mentioned Annika, and I'd bet my hidden blade she's got some serious Isu heritage in her bloodline, just like every other Assassin's Creed hero we've ever met. That magic she's wielding? Don't be fooled, it's probably not magic at all. If the series has taught us anything, it's that all the crazy mythological stuff, like Thor's hammer or those wild Odyssey beasts, ends up being some ancient, mind-blowing Isu technology that regular folks can't even begin to comprehend. So I'm guessing Annika stumbled onto some Isu artifact or tapped into an ability she doesn't quite get yet. Maybe the locals think she's a witch, but really, she's just rocking some next level DNA that's way ahead of her time. And here's where it gets juicy. This whole magic situation, yeah, it's about to drag her straight into a Templar conspiracy. Yeah, anyway, back to the story. As I'm told, this apparently gets Annika caught in a Templar conspiracy because she is accused of using magic. Again, the game takes place, according to my source, well before the Salem witch trials, around 100 years before that happens. So Annika is accused of being a witch, and then Anaka is then pursued by a hooded man who works with the Templars, and this hooded man is called Missiles. Maybe this is the main villain, I'm not really sure, but the twist is, Annika herself finds her fate hanging by a thread, literally on the verge of execution. Talk about irony. Which, yes, her dad does that job, so you can see how this is kinda complicated. Of course, Anaka breaks out of prison in a daring escape that forces her to sever ties with her family. She's officially reborn as the Witch Annika, embracing her newfound mysterious magical powers. We're talking ISU level magic here, though whether she's wielding it like summoning chaos among guards or unleashing lightning like a space wizard is still anyone's guess. Her mission becomes crystal clear: free her family, clear her name, and take down the very oppressors who falsely accused her. Fast forward a few months, enter the Assassin's Brotherhood. Naturally, when word spreads about a woman with these supernatural ISU powers, the Hidden Ones can't help but want her on their side. They take her in, train her, and drop major lore about the ISU backstory, touching on secrets like Adam, Eve, and other tantalizing fragments from the series' mythology. But here's the twist. As her journey unfolds, Annika eventually splinters away from the Brotherhood. She finds herself caught between two worlds. She's not entirely an assassin ally, yet she has no interest in the Templar schemes either. In a bold narrative turn, she represents a new, formidable third faction. So now, we have three distinct camps in this saga: the Assassins, the Templars, and the Witches. But then comes the revolution. Anaka rallies the oppressed peasants of Germany to rise up against Templar tyranny, sparking a full-blown uprising. But here's the twist. While she's wary of the assassin influence, this whole new witch persona of hers transforms her into a formidable, almost oppressive force.
And yeah, I gotta agree, this is
trained by the Assassins, yet deeply distrustful of them, and with the Templars squarely in her crosshairs, she walks a razor's edge of moral ambiguity. As the game kicks off, our heroine is now an outcast in the Holy Roman Empire, alienated from her family, shunned by the Brotherhood, and relentlessly hunted by the Templars. The core challenge? Deciding just how far to embrace her dark, witchy side. Will she become the monster lurking in the shadows, striking fear into the hearts of her enemies? And just when you think it couldn't get any more intriguing, enter her trusty sidekick, a mysterious, playable cat. Imagine this. While not exactly casting spells, this feline marvel is the ultimate recon expert, slipping through tight spaces and over fences to spy on Templar activities. And with Annika's uncanny ability to tap into her magical ISU powers, she might even be able to hear what her cat is up to. Now, wouldn't it be hilarious to see this cat taking on heavily armored Templars? Now, you might be wondering, were witch hunts really a thing back then? Absolutely. In the 1500s, people were still being burned at the stake for practicing witchcraft, even though it wasn't called the Salem witch trials. In fact, historical records show that witch hunts kicked off in the early 1400s and didn't really fade away until the late 1700s. So this game's theme of burn them at the stake for being witches totally fits the era. It's a dark, twisted nod to history that just adds to the intensity of the gameplay. Now let's talk gameplay structure. The game leans towards a linear progression with open areas, much like other titles, but its level design is heavily inspired by Metro Exodus. You'll kick things off in southern Germany, where you can explore freely until the main quest pushes you forward. Once you cross that narrative threshold, the current region locks down, and you're ushered into a new area. There's no going back to previous locales, at least for now. Although there's always potential for future updates to revisit these old zones with fresh missions, the current setup sticks closely to that Metro Exodus style progression. At a recent HEXE presentation, the narrative director highlighted the enduring challenges women face in gaming, a theme that fuels this game's bold, feminist narrative. Annika is mentored by a veteran Ezio Auditore, who, before his imminent death, designates her as the future leader of the Brotherhood in Europe. The game portrays Templar figures, especially those tied to Catholic traditions, as ruthless oppressors, underscoring its progressive edge. Notably, Annika is canonically lesbian, and a standout moment when Ezio asks her to dance symbolizes the passing of the torch to a new era. Fans are now left wondering if they'll embrace this daring reinvention. Alright, let's talk about Invictus. You already know this game is coming. It's a multiplayer game set in the Assassin's Creed universe. But to put it as simply as possible, think For Honor. But instead of generic warriors, you're playing as fan-favorite AC heroes: Ezio, Bayek, Alexios, Arno. Yeah, even Hatham. The game takes place in the Animus, of course, where players step into the shoes of these legendary figures and battle it out in combat simulations across various maps. Each hero has their own unique skills, tools, and playstyles, and since the HEXE For Honor team is handling development, you can already imagine how the mechanics will work. Maybe you're playing as Ezio, I'm Bayek, so I hit harder, but you're faster and can poison me. Then we duel it out. Sounds fun, right? Now, about that Black Flag remake, it's reportedly a 1-to-1 remake, but here's the part that might tick some people off. Ubisoft is planning to remove what they consider problematic elements. What that actually means, no clue. Was Black Flag even problematic? Maybe they're cutting down on Edward Kenway being a womanizer, but he's a pirate, or maybe it's the slavery aspect, even though that was historically accurate for the era. Either way, expect an official announcement soon, but just know some stuff is getting tweaked. On the flip side, the Prince of Persia, Sands of Time remake is also in the works, and word is, it's shaping up really well. People at Ubisoft are genuinely excited about this one, and unlike Black Flag, there's no talk of removing problematic content. It's another 1-to-1 remake, but supposedly with better combat and some solid improvements. Now, let's get into the real juicy stuff, Ubisoft and Tencent. So here's the situation. Ubisoft's stock has been struggling. Tencent wanted to buy them out, but Ubisoft's owners weren't having it. Assassin's Creed Shadows dropped, but despite all the positive PR, it didn't do well enough to save the company. Now, in a twist that's confusing even to Ubisoft employees, Ubisoft has formed a new company with Tencent. This new subsidiary, which doesn't have an official name yet, will now be the home for Ubisoft's biggest franchises: Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry. That's right, those three powerhouse series are now under this new Ubisoft-Tencent partnership. Tencent currently owns 25% of it and has poured about $1.1 billion into the company to help keep these franchises alive. So, what does this mean for the future of Ubisoft? Well, for starters, it looks like only this new Tencent-backed division will be handling these three major franchises. That means Ubisoft's current studios might be left with games like Prince of Persia, Rayman, Ghost Recon, and whatever else they have lying around. If layoffs don't happen, and let's be real, they probably will, those teams might shift focus to other projects. My guess. Tencent isn't just here to help, they want control. Over time, they'll likely bring in more of their own developers, and eventually Ubisoft might just become another Tencent-owned company altogether. Ubisoft, of course, is putting on a brave face, calling this move a new chapter, and claiming it'll lead to evergreen franchises, games that keep selling for years, like Skyrim, Minecraft, or Fortnite. But let's be real, Tencent wouldn't drop over $1 billion into Ubisoft just to let them keep making the same mistakes. The writing is on the wall. One big question is how Tencent's influence will affect future Ubisoft games. China has strict rules on what can and can't be shown in games. No effeminate men, no LGBTQ+ content, and no negative depictions of Chinese history. So how much creative control will Ubisoft actually have? If Tencent is calling the shots, don't be surprised if we see less of the so-called woke content Ubisoft has leaned into over the past few years. And speaking of Assassin's Creed HEXE, that game might be in trouble. Right now it's rumored to feature a lesbian witch protagonist going up against straight white male villains. But with Tencent's involvement, will that fly? My bet, either HEXE gets heavily reworked or it gets scrapped entirely. And what about Shadows? Ubisoft is being very careful with how they talk about its sales. They're happy with player engagement, which means lots of people tried it, but they haven't confirmed actual sales numbers. Internally, they're planning to support the game with post-launch content, but most of the development team is already moving on to HEXE, Invictus, Black Flag, and the Sands of Time remake. As for what comes after HEXE, no idea, no historical setting has been chosen yet, but once this Tencent partnership fully takes shape, we'll probably start hearing more. Maybe Spain? Maybe the Aztecs. Who knows? But let's just hope if they do go with Spain, they don't randomly insert a non-Spanish protagonist to save the day like they did in Shadows. Internally, there's talk of restructuring for whatever the next big Assassin's Creed game is. My sources think this means mass layoffs and a gradual transition to Tencent handling all AC development. Ubisoft Singapore, for example, is reportedly leading the Black Flag remake, so they're probably safe. But Tencent isn't going to just sit back. They'll want their own teams involved, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing AC games made entirely by Chinese developers. And honestly, those might end up better than what Ubisoft has been putting out lately. final thoughts. So to sum up, Ubisoft is in a weird place. Tencent has stepped in with a massive cash injection, but it's clear they won't just be passive investors. They're here to shape Ubisoft's future, and that means big changes are coming, whether fans like it or not. Will Ubisoft finally start making better games because of this? Or will they just become another Tencent-controlled publisher, pumping out predictable, microtransaction-filled titles? We'll have to wait and see. Either way, the Ubisoft we knew is changing fast. Alright, that's enough for now. Let me know what you think. As always, thanks to my sources, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.